Welcome to our play about the life of a very important lady who lived in Victorian times. We hope you enjoy our show. First of all, we'll take you to a modern school where a history lesson is taking place.
Good morning, class. In today's lesson, we're going to learn of the life of a very famous person, Florence Nightingale. Does anyone know who Florence Nightingale was?
She was just a nurse a long time ago. She wasn't a very important person like a king or a politician. She was only a nurse in the Crimean War. That was a long time ago. I couldn't remember her. She was just a nurse. I've never heard of Florence Nightingale. What do we remember Florence Nightingale for?
There were no modern hospitals back then, so when soldiers were hurt, they would die from their wounds because they were not looked after properly.
She must have been very kind then.
Yes, and very brave too.
Yes, think of all those big hands and bandages and all that blood. You must have been very strong to put up with all that.
Yes, some say she was a hero. The hospitals are cold at night and hot during the day. If the soldiers didn't die from their wounds, they would die from germs and diseases. Nurses did not get paid much and they had to work long hours. Nursing was seen as a very low-class job, and thus it was very unusual for a rich girl to become a nurse. Come, we'll learn more.
What should we remember Florence Nightingale for? She was just a nurse in the Crimean War. That was a long time ago. What is there to know? In these pages you can read tales of human history, tales of struggles to be free, that changed the world for you and me, for you.
Florence Nightingale had a rich father and mother. She was given the name Florence because she was born while they were born in Florence, Italy on May 12, 1820. Her father was a good religious man. In those days, slavery was still common. Florence was very close to her father. He worked hard to treat her as a friend. He showed her how to become a refined young lady and taught her Greek, Italian, Latin, French, German, history, philosophy, and mathematics.
Good morning, Florence. Good morning, Papa. You haven't been late today. Indeed I have. I worked late into the night on my anti-slavery campaign. What's slavery, Papa? It is an evil thing that must be stopped. No one has the right to own another human being and force them to do work without any pay. Yes, slavery sounds very cruel. Do you like my embroidery, Papa? Yes, but have you done the schoolwork I gave you? Yes, Papa. And what have you learned today? I have learned that it is good to be truthful, to be honest, to work hard, and to serve others. In fact, I think I would like to work in a hospital when I grow up. That's impossible. Only men can become doctors in this country. I don't want to be a doctor, Papa. I want to be a nurse. A nurse. Don't be silly, Florence. Florence, it is time to consider your future.
Yes, Papa, I must choose my career wisely.
You don't need a career. You should be married into a rich and noble family.
But Papa, I have been having such wonderful dreams about my future and place in this world. I believe that God wants me to care for people. I want to travel the world and do great things.
Nonsense! I have big plans for you. You must settle down and marry into society. In fact, I have invited Lord Houghton for you to get acquainted.
But Papa, I don't want to get married and become a housewife.
What do you want to do with your life? Explain.
I want to leave home and train to be a nurse. That is my destiny.
A nurse? A nurse? That's a job for a common working woman. Tell me it's not so. I forbid it.
It took a long time, but in the end, her father changed his mind and gave her permission to train as a nurse. So she began a long, successful career in medicine. Some years later, Britain and France went to war against Russia in 1854. This was called the Crimean War. Many British soldiers became sick with cholera, malaria, typhus, diarrhea, and dysentery. The sick and wounded were taken to a boat to Army Hospital in Scutari on the coast of Turkey. Conditions in this hospital were terrible. There were very few beds, so sometimes patients were laid on the floor and wrapped in a blanket. Rats ran amongst the living and dying. Even dead bodies were forgotten and left to rot. There was hardly any doctors and no trained nurses. There was no clean water and no good food. Florence Nightingale took a group of 38 nurses to work there.
I saw a rat. This is a nightmare. There aren't enough bandages, and these poor soldiers need medicine. The men who run this hospital don't want us here. They think we are just interfering. You need to interfere. This army hospital is filthy and everyone is dying. See, you poor Maggie need clean clothes and blankets. There's so many dirty army uniforms. Thank you, nurse. Was it you who visited me last night with your lantern? No, you must have been dreaming. Nurse, the lady with the light comes every night. Who is she? I don't know what you're talking about. Get some rest. I've cleaned your wounds and they are healing. You will be okay. Nurse, what happened to me? You have very bad infection, but you will recover. We'll bring you clothes and blankets in a moment. Thank you, nurse. I have seen so many of my friends die in here. I'm in great pain. Am I going to die too? No, we sure hope not. Get some rest.
In a cold land far away, the wounded soldiers lay. It seemed all hope had gone. But then a lantern shone. It was just a tiny light. But it was a welcome sight. And it seemed to shine so bright. In a room that wasn't clean. She taught about hygiene. It seemed all hope had gone. But then a lantern shone. It was just a tiny light. But it was a welcome sight. And it seemed to shine so bright. She brought her nursing skills and medicines and pills. It seemed all hope had gone, but then a lantern shone. It was just a tiny light, but it was a welcome sight. And it seemed to shine so bright.
That awful woman has complaining about us again.
What awful woman, sir?
Nightingale, Florence Nightingale. She says we are not doing our job properly.
Great God, we will lose our jobs. Who does she think she is? She's only a woman. She does not belong here.
She has reported us to the Times newspaper. The whole British knows about this hospital.
And what will happen next, sir?
They are sending medical supplies like blankets, clothes, beds, and more nurses and more doctors.
The Crimean War raged on and on. Many soldiers continued to die on the battlefield. Many more died from diseases. Florence Nightingale continued to care for the sick and injured at the Scutari Hospital. It took a long time for things to improve, but at last the government sent medical supplies and the death rate at the hospital began to decrease.
I feel better today.
So do I.
Last night I saw an angel.
That was no angel, that was Florence Nightingale, the lady with the lamp.
In 1856, Florence Nightingale returned to England as a national heroine. She had been called world famous around the world as the Lady of the Lamp. She was then presented to Queen Victoria and Prince Albert. For years, she kept trying to make hospitals better. She also tried to get equal rights for women. But as she got older, she started to not be so healthy anymore. So in 1895, she became blind. And then after full-time nursing herself, she couldn't get better. So on August 13th, 1910, she died.